Thank you for joining us, and as always, thank you for lounging with us. It's an absolute pleasure to have you here. I can't wait to dive into the books that I picked up this week. I did miss Dark Ages #2. I know I was saying I was going to pick that one up. I have no idea what I did with it. I thought I picked it up. Maybe I didn't. There were a couple books that I just didn't pick up because it was a pretty hefty week with variants and whatnot. I was actually catching up on a book that came out last week, but wanted the variant of it with SpiderMan on it. Same with Black Cat 10. I picked up the variant, and this week I picked up the cover A. And then picked up some other variants, and with Amazing Spider-Man this week being a $6 book, it was just kind of like, I'm not going to spend that much money on a ton of books this week. I'll save them for a lighter week, which hopefully next week will be a lighter week, because the week before that was crazy with Amazing Spider-Man 875, issue 74, being a $10 book and wanting a couple different variants of that. It was a pretty hefty week last week. So, with all that being said, let's dive right into this and start talking about the hottest books. And we're going to start with the least hottest book, the one that was just an interesting book to read, but I didn't really get behind it. There will be spoilers for these books. And I'm going to talk a lot about the hotter books, obviously, because those are the ones that I would suggest you read. So, Eternal Celestia was a very interesting book. It dove back to 1 million years ago. And for someone who's not a huge fan of like that massive flashback when I don't have a ton of knowledge on it, for me this wasn't a great read. It was confusing. It was hard to follow at some points, and even though it was really nice, and there were some really great scenes, and just certain times when I was like, wow, this is really cool, it was also like, just, it didn't grip me, I guess is the best way to put it. And that's why it's my coldest book of this week. It's not a true flop, but it is not a hot book for me. And it's a book I don't think will ever really be hot. We do get to see the Avengers from 1 million years ago, and that team is definitely an interesting team. And basically what's going on is they're trying to figure out what's going on with the Celestial that, if I remember correctly, Ajax was trying to communicate with. The Keeper of the Old Ways and Celestia. So it was definitely an interesting way to write this. There was a lot of like little tidbits about each character which I liked, and that's why I definitely still say this is a pretty nice book for someone who, like me, doesn't really know much about the Celestials, or the Celestials or the Eternals. But it was definitely interesting. And this is, if I'm correct, a one-shot with another book on the way. So this is one of those books where I might go back and reread it just to kind of understand a little bit more and kind of see what can truly be the main point of this. But pretty much Ajax gets absolutely pissed at Ghost Rider because Ghost Rider was able to communicate with the Celestial, who was Ajax's god, and she was pissed because she's like, this shouldn't be possible. He won't talk to me, but he'll talk to you? Like, I know who you are. This is... So she kind of like sends him away, and he like looks around and goes, where am I? And it's like a really cool scene, and there's some really interesting ways that they kind of show this kind of hate, but pretty much you've got Ajax just struggling as... That's kind of the best way I can put it. Just struggling to kind of understand what is going on and what is her true purpose at this point. She's supposed to be able to translate the Celestials. Like, if she can't do that, what is the point of being there? Then I picked up Arkham City: The Order of the World. This was an interesting book. It's a noir style book, and it goes and dives into all of these broken out criminals and just insane people from Arkham Asylum, with Dr. Joy being the main character, and you kind of reading her thoughts and her journal entries as it progresses, and as she starts to kind of talk about what happened, just about Arkham Asylum and the psychology behind it and her main goal. And then she gets into Professor Pig and Mad Hatter, Double X. Like, there's so many different Batman villains that we've seen before, the Ten-Eyed Man, and basically her goal is to kind of help one person. If she can help one person, then she can be successful. And we find out that she's actually living with the Ten-Eyed Man. Like, he's kind of moved in, and she's trying to fix him first. And he goes, oh, I was looking for teeth, so I stole this guy's jaw. And I'm like, what am I reading right now? So not exactly a hot book, but definitely, if you're into that style, an interesting read, to say the least. So if you like that more gory, kind of horror-ish style of book, a very noir book, this is one to pick up. I'm a huge fan of this cover with Azrael, however you pronounce that, I can't remember. And the next issue will be the Bloody Order of Azrael. So again, definitely worth a read if you're into that kind of stuff. It is a nice book, not a great book. I definitely wouldn't say that it's perfect. It's hotter than the last one. Let's just put it that way. Next up on my list is The Darkhold. And The Darkhold's a really cool book because we get to kind of learn about the Darkhold, and that was one of the things that I wanted to do with this, was learn more about it. And interestingly enough, this actually goes back, and I want to make sure I get this right, this goes back 1,000,000 years as well. Yes. Spectral analysis complete. Tissue predates 1,000,000 BCE. Artifact acquired. The true Darkhold at last. And Dr. Doom finds the Darkhold. Like, just straight up finds it and wants to take out this massive monster that used to roam the earth millions of years ago. And Scarlet Witch, Wanda, is having visions of Catan just decimating the earth. And I mean, this is her vision right here. Very well drawn, very well done by Tormey, and a great story by I can't remember his first name. Steve Orlando did the writing, and it's just a wonderfully done story that we get to see what the Darkhold is, and then also that there were actually defenders of the Darkhold, and that Wanda and Victor are kind of at odds, and she shows her vision to Victor. And totally forgot about putting that over here, so hopefully the audio was good. We see the details in everything going on. And Victor's like, no, I'm doing this myself. I'm going off and I'm taking on this monster myself. And Scarlet Witch is like, what in the actual are you doing? So she takes it upon herself to do what was done before. And Dr. Doom actually decided, I'm going to take the 5 Darkhold defenders and be them. Like, that's my game plan. That's my goal. There will be no team. It's just Doom. Obviously, once again, getting into Doctor Doom's arrogance and ignorance to a team up with anyone besides himself. So he takes off, and this is when Wanda creates her team. Iron Man the Dreamer, Blade the Hunter, Wasp the Artist, Black Bolt the Stoic, and then this kind of pissed me off a little bit. Spider-Man the Fool. Yes, he's foolish, and yes, he's a fool, but come on, really? The Fool? Insinuating that he's a clown? Definitely not what I was hoping for, but I can see it. So then she creates her team, and we see what her plan is. And basically it's to take out this monster because she sees it coming, and Doctor Doom actually arrives back from this realm deep within the earth, deep within everything of possibility. And Tony immediately looks at him and goes, dude, you don't look good. Armor's in critical condition. Like, what happened down there? And he basically, being arrogant, says, none of your business. Don't worry about it. I'm like, I get that it's Doctor Doom, but like, look at him. The dude's on fire. And yet he's still being arrogant as all can be. This is why I can't wait to see Doom in the MCU. I hope that we get a really great iteration of Doom. So then basically they see no other choice but to open and read the Darkhold themselves. And the main point being is ancient evil, that's the right job, and you're part of the solution. So be that Black Bolt, read from the book, read too far, and the madness will be uncontrollable. My nightmare is already real. And after reading, all 5 heroes go into madness. And we get this amazing page of the heroes turning into their mad selves. Spider-Man going mad, Iron Man just absolutely over the edge, looking just downright disheveled. Blade is beyond a hunter. Wasp is actually a true wasp, it seems like. And Black Bolt is silenced. I mean, there's no other way to put it. He truly has his crown built into his head now, which will lead into the other 5 issues of this, where each of these defenders are going to get their own issue. But that's where it gets interesting. Since they read too far in the Darkhold, they're no longer the defenders. And they say, what did you think would happen, Wanda? What about madness inspires self-restraint? You wanted the Dark Defenders. Sure. But you're getting the Darkhold defiled. And like, this page is just so well done. Again, hats off to Tormi for this amazing artistry. So then after this book, we're going to get Iron Man, Blade, Wasp, Black Bolt, and Spider-Man in one-shots, all as the 5 pieces to the puzzle between Alpha and Omega, with everything coming together in the Darkhold Omega #1. This should be a really awesome read. I can't wait to dive into this more. It's definitely not my hottest book this week. It's up there for sure, but there's just things about the other books that I have that were a little bit hotter. This cover, though, that was fire. Definitely. And Defenders #3. I picked up the variant, obviously, because it's got Silver Surfer on the cover. This was a really fire book. Definitely a huge fan of it. I don't want to dive too much into it because I want to save time for the last book that I have. But if you're a huge fan of Mystic books and really awesome, almost like We Live style artwork, that's what it kind of reminded me of while reading it. Was like that, like a Naki Miranda style. That's definitely a book worth picking up. I'm going to do a 3-issue review of that, so that's why I'm not diving into it here. I want to make sure that I go back and reread all 3 issues together before I dive into that book. since we are in issue 3 of that Defenders. It's not your father's Defenders. It's a Mystic Defenders. It's a Cosmic Defenders team. So don't think that you're going into it getting street level heroes, because you're not. That's all I'm going to say. All right, beyond chapter 1, Amazing Spider-Man. I might just CGC this to preserve this cover. It is absolutely amazing. So well done. The front to back connection is beautiful. And in this issue, we get to see Peter dealing with the events of the Kindred Saga. And I love that they moved right into it. Zeb Wells picked it up very well. Gleason did phenomenal on this artistry. I'm still trying to get an interview with him. I would love to do so. I'd love to just meet the guy in person, in all honesty. But anyways, it goes back to when he was a kid and steals, and then he turns into a nightmare. And he wants to deal with what's going on with Harry, but every time something comes up, he's like, no, not today. So that's why he goes to the Goddard building. And of course, not only does he go there, but the only, not really because he's a clone, Ben Reilly shows up too. And of course, Ben Reilly leaves him, and Peter chases after him. So you have Ben and Peter chasing after each other through the streets of New York City, and he's trying to talk to Ben, and Ben shushes him. And we don't really know why yet, but Ben says deploy Spinneret, and I believe the thing on his chest, which is what it looks like, based on his suit and based on him capturing Peter with all of the enhancements of that the Beyond Corporation has given Ben Reilly's spider suit, kind of tells me that this is a pretty big deal and that we're not going to see the end of Ben Reilly, but more on that in a minute. So we then dive into Peter and Ben running into each other on the Empire State University campus. And they go have dinner together. They start talking, and Ben basically says, hey, the Beyond Corporation is paying me to be Spider-Man. I'm not asking you to give me the moniker Spider-Man. I'm not asking to be another Spider-Man in New York City. I'm telling you, I'm going to be another Spider-Man in New York City. And Peter's like, what? To which we jump to Mary Jane talking to Peter, and Peter, of course, comes out and says, I saw Ben today. And she's like, well, nothing good ever happens when you see Ben. So what did he want? Which then there's an explosion over at the university. So Peter goes there, makes a quip, and Ben is already there and goes, I already said that, and they didn't find it funny. So they end up fighting the UFOs, which is made up of a bunch of different villains, and Ben showing off his might, showing off the different powers of his suit, one of them being the kinetic sensitive foam that's in his suit, locks under impact, and that's why he was able to kind of push off this gigantic monster where Peter's like, what just happened? And it's an amazing read. This book is absolutely phenomenal, and the ending is so interesting that basically it's why in the next issue we're going to see Peter in the hospital. And it's because Peter's suit isn't ready to protect him in this way. So basically Ben says, the suit says this gas is radio volatile. That means, and Peter goes, I know what that means. Like, he's a scientist. He knows. And Ben punches X-Ray, finds Peter completely taken out by this giant explosion. And that's when he kind of wakes up and says to Peter, talk to me. Like, what? Buddy, come on. Obviously, Peter being affected by everything that just happened. We get a flashback to 2 weeks ago with Ben Reilly, and we're starting to see where they're going to take this Ben Reilly situation. And I think that's why Zeb Wells is writing this, because he's not, from what I'm understanding, going to be the next writer of Amazing Spider-Man. He's kind of filling in some gap issues, because we're going to see not only the Beyond Corporation come back in episode 76 next week, but in January, Ben Reilly Spider-Man is going to be its own series coming out for quite some time. It seems like it's not just going to be a one-shot. They're going to play off on this, and they're going to really build it up. Who knows if the Beyond Corporation is going to continue, or if Ben is going to fight against them. It's yet to be seen, but that is why this is my hottest book for the week. I am so excited by this book. The implications of Ben Reilly coming back, number one, is huge. The implications of there being this whole new idea of Spider-Man battling some brand new heroes is ginormous. And seeing what this comes out, what ends up happening with Amazing Spider-Man in his suit, we might see an upgrade in his. That there's so many implications for what is going on with everything in the Amazing Spider-Man comics that it could easily roll over into other comics. And I can't wait to see what Kelly Thompson has to do for this series. Zeb Wells clearly is kicking it off with a bang. I'm very excited by the Beyond Corporation Chapter 1, and I can't wait to read Chapter 2. I will be doing a 3-issue review on that. Not next week, but the week after, when issue 3 finally hits. Chapter 3 finally hits. But yeah, I also had to pick up, obviously, this variant cover with Ben Reilly as Scarlet Spider and Amazing Spider-Man. Technically Amazing Spider-Man. And then, of course, I picked up the Gleason variant, because I'm a huge fan of Gleason's work, and he has been killing it with these webhead covers. So with all that being said, thank you for watching. I know it's been a very long video, but it's been worth it to me, because I love reviewing these books. I love talking about these comics with you guys. Let me know what you think in the comments below. What was your hottest book of the week? That's what I want to hear. I can't wait to see Dark Ages #2 once I finally realize where that is. And we'll go from there. Thank you so much for watching. Have a great day. As always, #LoungersAssemble, subscribe, like, and comment. Hit that notification bell. Thank you.